Hello and welcome back to Les Douceurs de Bussy. On today's program, we have delicious croissants with a light texture and golden color, with a pronounced buttery taste and crispy crust. Today's video will be a little longer than usual, but I wanted it to be as clear as possible, without any gray areas, so that you too can embalm your home with that delicious buttery aroma. But let me tell you first that I'm looking forward to reading you, so I'll be waiting for your comments under this video to tell me what you think. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and activate notifications. This shows me your love. Without further ado, let's start right away with secret number 1. To get good croissants, you have to give yourself time. Once the dough has been kneaded for the first time, it has to be left to rest for several hours, so you might as well make it the day before. And then, during the process, there will be rest periods. 1 hour, then 1 hour, then 2 hours. Secret number 2, quality ingredients, starting with the flour. 500 grams of refined white wheat flour. It's the kind you'll find on most supermarket shelves. We add a very small bowl of flour which we will use to flour our work surface and work the dough. And the second pillar of a successful croissant is butter. We'll need 100 grams of soft butter for the dough. 250 grams of very good butter for the puff pastry. Puff pastry is this operation which will enable us to obtain several thin layers in our croissant. And for that, it's best to take a gourmet butter. That means good quality butter, at least 82% fat content. 10 grams of dry baker's yeast or 25 grams of fresh yeast. 12 grams salt, 60 grams sugar, 90 grams semi-skimmed liquid milk. 140 grams, so 140 milliliters of fresh water. And for the gilding, just before baking, we'll need 1 egg yolk and 2 tablespoons of liquid milk. The third secret is that since during the process, we'll need to have an idea of the dimensions from time to time. Of our dough, we're going to make 3 patterns. A small rectangle measuring 18 centimeters by 25 centimeters, a larger card measuring 26 centimeters by 33 centimeters, and finally a triangle for cutting croissants with a base of 8 centimeters and a height of 26 centimeters. Don't worry, I've listed all the dimensions in the video description. We start by putting salt, sugar, milk, water, the baking powder, and finally the soft butter. You can take it out a few hours before you start preparing it. Or you can soften it for a few seconds in the microwave. And mix by any means you like. A spatula, your hands, or your food processor. When the ingredients finally form a compact dough, transfer it to the work surface, of course, after flouring it. You can knead it like this, pressing with the palm of your hand and folding the dough just afterwards. And each time turn the dough a quarter turn at a time, to ensure that all parts are well worked in all directions. Or you can opt for a second mixing method, which is to grasp the dough with both hands like this. Then knead the dough onto the work surface pressing down. You turn it over and grasp it again from the right. Knead, press, lift, turn right. Knead on the worktop, press, lift, flip, and so on. Whether you choose to do so by hand or in a food processor, kneading should take about 12 minutes in order to obtain a dough of this texture. It's at this point that our number 1 pattern, measuring 18 centimeters by 25 centimeters, will be used to give our dough a rectangular shape. We're not going to work directly on the pattern. We will place a sheet of greaseproof paper on top, which we will use as baking paper and try to get as much as we can out of the way to approximate the shape of this rectangle. When you are satisfied with the shape of your dough, wrap it in plastic. Film on contact, so with nothing in between. It will rest in the refrigerator for 8 hours, so you can do it quietly in the evening, and then the next morning when you wake up, you'll continue. We'll now take care of the 250 grams of butter, still using pattern number 1. If you have it in a single block, that's perfect. If not, put them really side by side so you can work them as a block. Use 2 sheets of greaseproof paper, one on the bottom, one on the top, and you start working on it. First by tapping with your rolling pin. For butter 2, the aim is to obtain a shape similar to our pattern number 1, a rectangle measuring 18 centimeters by 25 centimeters. When the butter is a little flattened, we fold the parchment paper the shape we want our butter to take, a kind of envelope in which to enclose our butter, to make mixing easier for us. You'll see that the risk of spillage is virtually non-existent, and you'll be able to use your roller with peace of mind. And get this, our butter envelope will also have to go into the fridge overnight, which brings me to secret number 4. The dough and the butter casing must be at the same temperature the next morning when you resume work. It's daylight and I'm up to tackle next step. Here I've got my butter envelope, and on the other side we've got our dough that spent a good night in the fridge. We unwrap it. We flour our worktop and we'll start working our dough to spread it out a little. The objective is very clear and precise. The dough should reach twice the surface of the butter, so that the butter can be stuffed inside. You'll see what it's all about in a moment. So, the goal, twice the surface area of butter. Feel free as often as necessary. We're almost there, just a little extra length. Let's check it out. We're good to go. We unwrap our slab of butter. And we place it on one half of our rolled out dough. As planned, fold the other half of the dough over the butter so that you can seal the edges. We do our best to keep an attractive rectangular shape. Turn your dough a quarter turn clockwise so that what I'll call the spine of the book is on your right. I mean this side. Take a good look. You see the little side with the book title. Then start spreading it out lengthwise. But first, use your roller to seal the various edges, to prevent butter escaping from the front or back. Start spreading it out, first with small strokes. Like this, with your roller moving forward, always in the same direction, little strokes, little squeezes. Let's go like this, gentle at first, always to prevent the butter escaping from our pasta casing. The roller can then be used as normal by rolling it on the dough, always lengthwise to lengthen it. It's time to talk about secret number 5, which is valid this time, but also for following times when we need to spread the dough, having an even thickness. Stroke your rectangle to detect any dents. Get down, look! The aim is to have a thickness of around 7 millimeters, which will give you a rectangle measuring approximately 22 centimeters by 58 centimeters. That's it. Let's get folding. By dividing the length of the rectangle into 3, fold 2/3 of the way down your left rectangle. Next, grasp the right-hand side and fold it over as far as it will go. Of the left border you had already folded. Finally, take hold of the right-hand side and fold it all the way over. At the end of this little folding exercise, you should have 4 layers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Refilm the result of your work. And leave to rest in the fridge for an hour. After this hour of waiting, take out the dough and place it in the spine of the book on your right. Spread as before. first with small blows, and then you can roll the roller to obtain a smooth surface. The aim is to have the same dimensions as before. Here we have 55 centimeters by 22. We're going to make a slightly different fold than the first. From the left, bend up to 2/3 of the way, and then grab the right hand side and fold it all the way over. So this time, instead of 4 layers, we'll have 3. Same scenario, we'll wrap our dough in plastic film, always on contact, then refrigerate for 1 hour. After this short hour's rest, we're going to roll out our dough for the last time. Yippee! We're going to use our 26 centimeter by 33 centimeter number 2 pattern, because really, the aim is to have a rectangle measuring 26 centimeters by 66 centimeters. The pattern would have been too big, in fact. So we're aiming for twice our pattern number 2. After a few taps on your roll, you should get about 26 by 66 centimeters. The dough should be about 4 millimeters thick. And since we're now going to move on to shaping, I'll talk about secret number 6, which is cutting the edges of the rectangle with a sharp knife. With a close look at the cut, you'll see the beautiful puff pastry. Look at these lines. It's finally time to shape our croissants. To do this, we use our triangle pattern number 3. Well, I'm going to take it easy now so as not to ruin my worktop, since I didn't protect it before. When you have finished cutting your triangle, make a small slit at its base of about 2 centimeters in length. And now's when we talk about secret number 7. Don't squeeze the croissants. Do not apply excessive pressure when rolling. Grasp both sides of the slot like this and simply roll to the top of your triangle. Your hand just accompanies the dough. Without exerting pressure. Here it is, our first croissant of the batch. Cut your triangles in the same way. One with the base down, the next, the base at the top, the one after that, the base at the bottom, and so on. You are going to roll up your triangles as we saw earlier, always with the small slot of 2 centimeters in the middle of the base, and then roll it up to the top without exerting any pressure on it. And each time you place the top end of the triangle below the croissant to prevent it from unrolling as it expands. Place them on your baking tray on grease-proof paper, leaving plenty of space between them to allow them to swell before and during cooking. And while they're inflating before baking, let's talk about secret number 8. Without pressing, just place plastic film on top to prevent a crust from forming during the rest period. Because we're going to let our croissants stand for 2 hours at a temperature between 22 and 25 degrees, for example, in a switched-off oven, so that our croissants double in size. A few minutes before the 2 hours, we're going to take our croissants out of this unlit oven and light it up, to preheat it to 200 Celsius degrees and also prepare our gilding by mixing the egg yolk and the 2 tablespoons of milk. Using the kitchen brush, we will spread the gilding on our croissants just by touching the horizontal parts. We'll avoid touching the sides. You know the parts where the puff pastry appears? No, we won't touch those parts. We only touch the horizontal parts like this. Look at those curves, those harmonious shapes. And you haven't seen anything yet because now we're going into the oven, already preheated to 200 degrees, for about 15 minutes, maximum 20. In any case, from 15 minutes onwards, keep an eye on the state of your croissants. And finally, the last secret is that you can also make your own croissants and freeze them if you want to make them another time. So, immediately after shaping them, you don't let them rest for 2 hours in the turned off oven and place them directly in the freezer. Once they have hardened, you can put them in a bag and store for up to 2 weeks. In the meantime, your croissants are baked. Admire the gilding. Transfer to a wire rack to cool. Wait a few more minutes, even if the fragrance is irresistible. This is it. It took a long time, but it wasn't complicated at all. I'm sure you'll agree. I wish you an excellent tasting, and above all, I'd like to read you. Give me your feedbacks on this recipe, and we'll see you soon for a new video. Ciao!